Following the momentum from our previous single-player video, we are taking a massive detour off the beaten path. Forget the heavily marketed hype trains that completely derailed on day one. We are diving deep into 20 absolute single-player bangers that somehow got criminally ghosted by the broader gaming public. They might not be the best of the best in the genre, but surely has their own charm. Let's get started. Listen, if your idea of a good Friday night involves tethering a military dictator statue to a moving jet and watching physics completely give up on life, you should have played this yesterday. Everyone hypes up the second game, but this one gave us the wingsuit that basically turns Rico into a heavily armed explosive flying squirrel. Sure, the frame rate dropped into single digits on consoles whenever more than 3 things exploded, which was every 4 seconds. But who cares? It is the ultimate digital stress ball. You don't play it for the deeply compelling, emotionally devastating narrative. You play it because blowing up red fuel tanks releases a massive amount of dopamine directly into your brain. This series is the undisputed king of beautiful, unhinged Japanese jank, and the 4th entry peak fever dream. You play as a customizable samurai arriving in a fictional port town, and the sheer level of absolute freedom is ridiculous. Want to ignore the geopolitical crisis and just run a local language school? Go for it. Want to get arrested just so you can flirt with the female executioner? Weird flex, but totally doable. The community still jokes about how you can literally fight people using a giant fish as a sword. It's like a choose-your-own-adventure book written by someone who drank 3 energy drinks and watched 5 anime movies simultaneously. It completely deserved a massive cult following. Calling this a video game is honestly a bit of a stretch. It's more like a multi-million-dollar anime where you occasionally press the punch button with the fury of 1,000 dying suns. You play a demigod who is so utterly furious about being betrayed that he grows 6 arms and literally punches a finger that is the size of Earth. It's the only game where the quick-time events feel entirely justified because you are actively matching the protagonist's insane blood pressure. Yes, Capcom locking the actual true ending behind a paid DLC paywall was a massive villain move that killed its momentum, but as a pure, hyper-stylized spectacles, this thing has absolutely zero competition. A moment of silence for United Front Games, because they handed us a masterclass in open-world design, and everyone just went, cool, but when is GTA 6 coming out? You play as Wei Shen, an undercover cop in Hong Kong who is deeply conflicted, highly lethal, and apparently incapable of eating a pork bun without a street vendor questioning his manhood. The hand-to-hand combat makes you feel like John Wick in a neon-drenched fever dream, especially when you start shoving triads into ice makers. It's an easy 9 out of 10 that unfortunately got buried under the Grand Theft Auto shadow. If you haven't played it, go buy it right now. A man who never eats pork bun is never a whole man. We need to talk about why modern gaming completely abandoned fully destructible environments, because this game mastered it ages ago. You are on Mars, you have a giant sledgehammer, and if there is a building standing in your way, it will not be standing there for long. The physics engine is an absolute work of art. There is no puzzle that cannot be solved by structurally compromising the load-bearing walls of a multi-story building until it collapses directly onto your enemies. The story is a standard miners versus evil corporations trope, but nobody remembers the dialogue anyway. You only remember the glorious chaos of bringing down an entire bridge with a few well-placed remote charges. Before we go into the list, I want to give you my recommendation for some of the best deals in instant gaming right now, especially if you're tight on budget. We knew that instant gaming always give us so many crazy deals for your favorite games, like these titles for example. I mean, can you believe these prices? If you love RPGs, there's no way you never heard of these masterpieces, and to think that you can get them under $10 or even $5, it's an absolute steal. All you have to do is just click my link in the description below, start searching for your favorite games and use the activation code on your chosen platform. By using my link, you're not only saving tons of money, but also helping me to support this channel. Alright then, let's get back into the list. Team Ninja finally decided to make a massive open-world historical epic, and it somehow slipped under the radar for a lot of people. The combat is incredibly sharp, combining Neo's deep stance mechanics with satisfying parries that make you feel like an absolute god once you nail the timing. The community recently got a nice surge of new blood since it hit PlayStation Plus, which is awesome because people are finally discovering how crazy the weapon scaling is. Looking at you, Oxtail Blade enthusiast, it does suffer from standard open-world checklist fatigue, but the moment you parry a flaming sword and glide off a rooftop, all those minor complaints just completely melt away. Now is the time for a deeply broken spy RPG. This game is the definition of flawed masterpiece. The actual gunplay and stealth mechanics feel like trying to control a shopping cart with one broken wheel through a swamp. But the dialogue and choice systems? Unmatched. You can play as an arrogant James Bond, a professional Jason Bourne, or a chaotic Jack Bauer. And the game actively changes how characters treat you based on your vibe. You can accidentally romance a psychopathic assassin or completely ruin a diplomatic relationship because you skipped a line of dialogue. It's a game that respects your choices so much it hurts, and it desperately deserved a sequel to fix the jank. Look, I know the original is a legendary classic, but Bluepoint's remaster somehow managed to fly under the radar for a newer generation of gamers who think anything older than 5 years is ancient history. There are no towns, no side quests, and no annoying NPCs telling you that another settlement needs your help. It's just you, your horse aggro, and 16 massive, majestic creatures that you have to climb like a jungle gym and stab in the glowing weak spot. It's a beautifully melancholic experience that forces you to question if you're actually the bad guy. The visual upgrade is breathtaking, and it remains a masterclass in minimalist gaming perfection. This is a sci-fi squad shooter from the creators of the Yakuza series, which should tell you exactly how delightfully weird it is. You are fighting a robot rebellion, and the procedural damage engine is incredible. You can literally shoot the legs off a robot and it will keep crawling toward you like a Terminator's. It also featured a voice recognition mechanic where you could talk to your squad mates through a headset. If you swore at them, their trust level would drop and they'd ignore your orders during firefights. It was completely ahead of its time, incredibly cheesy, and features one of the best French robot companions in digital history.
This one is different. It is more powerful.
This one got a bit of a rough start back in 2023, but the developers dropped a massive Rain of Sand overhaul that completely reworked the experience. The core gimmick is sand surfing across a vast desert while using a magical gauntlet to shapeshift weapons on the fly. The momentum mechanic is brilliant. The more aggressive you play, the bigger your weapons get, but you also take way more damage. It's a high-stakes, high-reward ballet of violence. The voice acting and narrative are still pretty wooden, but if you want to stay airborne for 3 minutes straight while shattering giant sand monsters, this is a phenomenal 7 out of 10 bargain.
Our foe's end is nigh. Shatter it.
Spread out! Get to cover!
On the surface, this looks like the most generic copy-paste military shooter from the Xbox 360 era. Do not let that fool you. This game is a psychological horror story masquerading as a Call of Duty clone, loosely based on Heart of Darkness. It actively deconstructs the entire concept of the heroic American soldier and forces you to make decisions that will leave you staring blankly at the credits roll in silence. The gameplay mechanics are admittedly pretty standard stop-and-pop third-person shooting, but the narrative execution is an absolute masterpiece. It's a game that wants you to feel bad for playing it, and it succeeds brilliantly.
We need to take cover! You son of a bitch! Behind me! They're coming up behind me!
Armored vehicle has been destroyed.
Taking a legendary spacefaring RTS series and grounding it on a desert planet sounds like a recipe for disaster, but Blackbird Interactive absolutely nailed it. Instead of massive starships, you are controlling a giant rolling land carrier across beautiful, treacherous sand dunes. The tactical depth is fantastic, emphasizing height advantages and line-of-sight mechanics that make every skirmish feel like a high-stakes chess match. The sound design alone deserves an award. Hearing the calm, professional radio chatter of your units amidst a chaotic sandstorm creates an incredible atmosphere. It's a shame RTS games don't get the mainstream love they used to, because this is a stellar experience.
Alert! Radar, we're getting ripped apart!
Hey, Hannah. Hey, Joanna.
You're making this.
This is a brilliant isometric stealth adventure that actually just celebrated its first anniversary. Developed by River End Games, it drops you into a gorgeously realized fictional Scandinavian city during the early 20th century. You swap between 3 different characters to solve environmental puzzles and slip past guards. The art direction uses this vibrant color palette that breaks all the rules of traditional gloomy stealth games, and the optimization on Unreal Engine 5 is shockingly flawless. The community absolutely adores it, boasting a massive amount of positive reviews on Steam. If you miss old-school tactical stealth games like Commandos, this needs to be on your radar immediately. This game got absolutely obliterated at launch because it was sold for $60 and could be beaten in about 5 hours if you took a long lunch break. But if you pick it up today on a discount, it's an incredible ride. The alternate history Victorian London setting is jaw-droppingly beautiful, featuring Knights of the Round Table fighting werewolves with electricity guns designed by Nikola Tesla. The transition between cutscenes and actual gameplay is so seamless it still puts modern titles to shame. It's essentially a highly polished interactive cinematic experience. It didn't need to be an open-world RPG, it just needed a reasonable price tag.
Target down!
Master Shen said I must hide.
Ninja Theory's early PS3 title was heavily pushed as a flagship showcase for the console's 6-axis motion controls, which, let's be honest, were terrible. Controlling an arrow mid-flight by tilting your controller was a nightmare, but everything else, incredible. Nariko was a phenomenal protagonist, the 3-stance combat system was incredibly fluid, and Andy Serkis gave a masterclass performance as the villainous King Bohan. The facial animations were decades ahead of their time. It unfortunately got swept away in the early PS3 era struggles, but it laid the groundwork for games like Hellblade. It's a beautiful hack-and-slash piece of history that deserves a modern port. Making a real-time strategy game work on a console controller is historically a fool's errand, but Ensemble Studios somehow cracked the code. They stripped away the overcomplicated macro management of PC strategy games and focused entirely on fast-paced, satisfying combat. Building a massive army of Scorpions and ODST squads and dropping them directly onto a Covenant base feels absolutely spectacular. The Blur Studio cinematics are still peak fiction and look better than most modern movies. It's the perfect gateway drug for anyone who is intimidated by the high barrier of entry in traditional PC RTS games.
Target locked.
The original game took itself way too seriously with a protagonist who had the personality of a wet cardboard box. The sequel completely flipped the script, embracing a vibrant, colorful, and delightfully chaotic version of San Francisco. Marcus Holloway and the DedSec crew are incredibly fun, and the gameplay gives you total freedom. You can literally beat the entire game without firing a single bullet by just using your drone, RC car, and hacking traffic lights to cause massive pileups. It's the closest thing we've ever gotten to a modern, high-tech version of Bully, and it's a crime it didn't outsell its predecessor.
Targets have been reported near your location.
Ubisoft dropped this right around the time everyone was obsessed with Breath of the Wild, so it immediately got labeled as a clone and dismissed. But if you actually sit down with it, it's arguably much more fun in the combat department. The air combos and godly powers make you feel like a mythological superhero, and the tone is a light-hearted comedic take on Greek mythology narrated by unbickering Zeus and Prometheus. The puzzles are genuinely clever without being frustrating, and the world is packed with vibrant color. It's a fantastic feel-good adventure that deserved way better marketing than it got.
Defense lines and an operating base established within the hour. Move!
People saw the aggressive marketing for this and assumed it was another live service treadmill game designed to drain their wallets. In reality, it's a complete old-school cooperative third-person shooter with an incredibly satisfying sci-fi campaign. The game actively punishes you for hiding behind cover. The only way to heal is to run directly into the fray and turn enemies into red mist with your superpowers. Playing as a devastator and literally dropping out of the sky like a meteor to crush a squad of bandits never gets old. It's a pure mid-2000s style action fun that deserved a much bigger player base. This is the ultimate hidden gem on Steam. It's a Korean turn-based tactical RPG that basically plays like XCOM, but with a massive anime aesthetic and a staggering amount of depth. The developer is legendary for their insane level of support and updates. The master system allows you to combine hundreds of different masteries to completely break your characters in the best way possible. The community is fiercely loyal, and the developers are actively working on the next entry, Banished Children, which is set to introduce a whole new lineup of characters and factions. If you like deep strategy, this is your new obsession.
목표 제거하였습니다.
이번 사냥은 여기까지고. 아우, 한 방이면 충분할 줄 알았네.